Hello and welcome to Raheen's page. This is me, Raheen Fatima, and today we have Attila. Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm doing great, and how are you?
I am great. So, can you please introduce yourself for the people who don't know you?
Okay. Hi, everyone. I am Attila. I am a lifelong entrepreneur. I focus in technology. I like future technology. I like to oftentimes ponder about what the future would be like, so we can have a better future. So that's essentially who I am.
That's great. Okay, so what I really think is that anybody's childhood really has an effect on what they grow up to be. So, how was your childhood?
Overall, I would say that my childhood was pretty happy. I mean, of course, there's no complete happiness. I mean, there's always you know the, a rocky road. When you're growing up and trying to understand what the world is all about, and coming to terms that that the world is quite beautiful, but also there's also a lot of pain and suffering, and that really causes a lot of not so much beauty in the world. And so yeah, I've this past couple of years I've been going through I guess you could say like a spiritual journey, and little did I know is I wasn't little did I know that I was seeking answers from the world, but I was mostly seeking answers from within.
Yes. And so how were you as a child? Were you shy? Were you naughty? What kind of a child were you?
So that's a good question. I mean, I was mostly shy, but then at times I would be outgoing. I mean, it would just really depend on who I would be around. And making friends wasn't as easy. My language was Hungarian as my first language, so with kids looking at names, and Attila in America is not a very typical Western name, so kids can be cruel, and and they were, but I don't know. I guess you could say I lived in my own little world until I finally started becoming into my teen years, and I started getting online and really getting to see what like how this world works, and like why am I spending time in high school when I could be selling online or doing something online, or making some kind of actual benefit that's going to benefit me. And at that time, my mentality was very different in terms of like it was always about me. But over time you realize it's not just about you. It's, I mean, it is, but it's not. The most important thing is the things that you do, as long as they don't hurt anyone around you, consciously or unconsciously. It's just about the fact of being aware.
Yes, okay. So, when did you start your professional journey? When did you start walking into your professional life?
Ooh, so I was born in Canada, and I grew up in the US, and my parents went to America legally, but in 1989, when the papers had to be renewed, my dad didn't renew it, so we just stayed illegally. And so we were kind of illegal immigrants in America, but that kind of pushed me to, because one, I couldn't drive, two, I couldn't get a job, and so that kind of pushed me into ways to find other ways to make money. And so when I was about 12 or 13, I would do odd jobs around the neighborhood. I would paint the garage door, mow the lawns, clean up garages, or just help people around the neighborhood. And when I was 14, I got my first computer, and for about 6 months or so, I would play around, but then that was pretty much when I guess you could say I professionally started my career, because that was when I noticed that, oh wow, there's money to be made online. And I started looking into what avenues of channels that I can make money. And I essentially I started off with selling on eBay. I was drop shipping high-end electronics from computers to flat screen monitors, and just kept growing from there. Learning how to do e-commerce, web design, and web hosting. Going into electronic retail, and then when I was about 18 and a half, I moved to China and essentially pivoted into wholesaling electronic gadgets.
Okay, so were you always that interested in the electronics and e-commerce?
Yes, I mean it's interesting because like I went through so many different industries in my life before I finally found like what I believe or what I feel is right for me, or right for not just for me but also for the whole picture of everything that I'm looking to achieve in my lifetime.
Yeah. So, tell us about Growth Network, how the idea came and how does it work?
So many years ago, after going from like all these different businesses, from like retail electronics to wholesale, I even went into electronic manufacturing, software as a service, even went into game design. But in 2018, I was in Shenzhen, China, and blockchain was, 2016, 2017, blockchain was getting pretty big. There was a project that I was working on. The project didn't get enough attention in terms of like local markets. So in my mind, I thought, okay, what is a great way to get people's attention? And I was thinking of, okay, bringing the community together. And when you bring the community together on various other topics, you can kind of see, who's interested in what, and who's doing what, and maybe able to have some kind of synergy or partnership inside. So I started doing these mastermind events, and it's not your typical mastermind that people are familiar with, where like 8 or 10 people come into a room and talk about their business, and then get help from everyone around the room. I thought more on a larger scale of why is it only 8 or 10 people? Why isn't there events where people can come together, have networking, have like 3 or 4 like speakers talking about a specific topic, or a specific industry, and then just focusing and reiterating around the idea of continuously sending messages to the guests that why are you here? Like, you're here to network, you're here to speak, you're here to make friends, you're here to share, you're here to grow. And these continuous little reminders that because I kept printing them off and handing them out to everyone who came to our events. And our first event, I wasn't really expecting too many people to come out, but we got really lucky. We had about 40 to 50 people to come out. And then after about our sixth event, we had about a little over 230 to 250 people. And it was one of our biggest events at our time. So when we did our events, it was actually really nice, because each event that we went after, our team would get together and we discuss how we can do better, and what we can do to better benefit the community, or better benefit our attendee goers. And not only just to help us with our business, but at that point I started realizing, I was like, oh wow, like this is so much more empowering, or so much more fulfilling, bringing people together, and helping people to like communicate, and listen to each other, and share ideas, and share resources. Because at the end of the day, what is there more than just us having each other? If we can't share the things that we have, then essentially we're just going to be alone.
Yes, and so you really talked about networking. So, how important do you think is networking?
Networking is absolutely important. I mean, it gets people out there. It gets people to communicate. It gets people to understand and see the world in a different way. I mean, we all come from all walks of life. We all have different backgrounds, experiences, and life events that brings us to where we are today. That for for the purposes of like why we were brought to this world, that everything that happens like to our lives, it it's all comes together when like it matters most. So when like one feels like, oh, the universe isn't like, or God or whoever or whatever whoever, whatever someone prays to or looks to or talks to, it's many times it it, it goes much more than that.
Yeah, and so how was the experience in China when you moved there after working on eBay and e-commerce, basically? Because China is the main producer, e-commerce, and a lot of things happen in China. So how was the experience? Because there's a lot of cultural change. Because I know that you're originally from Hungary, but you were brought up in America. So,
Yes.
it's a lot of culture change going to all China. So how was it, and how did it, impact the time of your life at that time?
Well, it's really interesting because it was a journey, and it really didn't impact me as much as, like, say for example, moving to Vancouver recently. I mean, I spent half my life in America. I was born here in Canada. I just never been here. But after spending so much time in China and Hong Kong and coming to Vancouver, I would have to say, like, Vancouver is more of a stranger place than China was, but like in a different way, more of a vibe type frequency. But China it was very eye opening. The very first few months was, like, it was nothing but adventure and wanting to go out and learn and explore and.
Yeah. And so how do you think collaboration at a local level can help people to grow together?
Hmm, good question. Well, setting aside like cultural differences and setting aside, the basic needs of what people want and desire. I mean, if we can get beyond like personal opinions and personal, like preferences, and just find a way to communicate of what we all want, because essentially at the end of the day, we all want the same things. It's just a matter of language and the matter of communicating it. And like feelings are a range of emotions that are on a spectrum that you can't really gauge in a word, because, like, I could love this earpiece, but, like, I could really love this water. Like, my love for this water is much more than this earpiece. So that wording love is, you can't quite gauge how much I actually love this water, or love this earpiece.
Yes, and like that's so good. And so growing up, did you use a lot of electronics, or was it, is normal, or you did not use as many electronic devices as, other people would?
Well, it was interesting because when I got my first computer in 14, I pretty much took it apart and put it back together, broke it, and my parents were kind of angry about it. But essentially, I ended up I'm becoming really good at computers, repairing computers, and I also kind of like became the local tech guy. But um, I would say I'm pretty heavily, into electronics. I mean, I should say I was as heavy. I mean, I used to always, like, go out and get the latest and greatest, and now I just have no interest in that. Like, I have I. It's weird to say, I used to go out and get a phone every year. Now my phone's like almost 2.5 years old, but it still works and it's still fast. And I guess my priorities have kind of changed, but.
Yeah, over time, priorities really change. And so, tell me one thing. What is the most important thing in establishing a network?
Okay. The most important thing about establishing a network is like find out the topic that you wanna talk about, and then, like, find out, like, what's important, for the people, and not only for you, but also, like, for other people, because there's there's a lot of tools and resources out there that could be used, but it's just a matter of like getting up and actually like taking action. You know, that's why there's like a lot of things that aren't done in this world, because sometimes people can't do it by themselves, and even if they have all the tools and resources, you know, like maybe they don't have the willpower or the energy or the extra push that, you know, a growth network, you know, whether business wise or personally, will help you to do that.
Yes, and so how to convert like a social network to business collaboration? Because at the end of the day, we really want to collaborate in our businesses.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, right now I'm looking more on the personal level in terms of like growth network. Like for me personally, my lifelong mission is happy life. And you know, happy life for me is getting land and developing on it and just giving it away for free to the point where we, you know, where we're co-creating, co-sharing, co-living, co-experiencing pretty much the happiness of all life has to offer. And you can essentially create an economy within that, which is part of one of the algorithms and blueprints that I'm working together, is to rewrite how companies are structured, rewrite how company profits are structured, rewrite how like uh, the employee employer relationship is structured in terms of a freelancer gig economy that allows people to work for potentially 20 or 30 or even 50 different companies. And for each micro task that each people do, they will be paid, you know, accordingly. But as for like growth network, I mean, you can't take away money from the equation in today's society. I mean, I've tried to find so many different ways, but I mean, just to trade among other, you know, countries or people, it would be too problematic. So finding solutions around that is a key element for us to move forward and grow. And by doing that, we're going to need to uh, you know, combine our efforts together and learn, rather than just speaking up that we want change, that we actually have to find some groups of people and some partners to work with in order to do that. And that's whether it's in business or in personal life. You know, it's all the same. Hello. Oh, Raheen, I think it froze.